Good morning, everyone, and welcome once again to another episode of this podcast, A New Direction. And on today's episode, we'll be looking at a very intriguing issue. We'll be looking at the word ignorance, but we have tagged this session to be ignorance and the lack of knowledge, because that's where we'll be kicking off our discussion from, the lack of knowledge that we as men exhibit. So, words were introduced by the Spirit of the Lord, the Spirit that generated everything, including man. And he alone reserves the right to explain and define what words actually mean, both in speech and in application. And how does he plan to achieve that his purpose? We always say to you that we are reaching you from the storehouse, trying to explain or trying to let you know the significance of the storehouse as the information hub of the Spirit. And we also try to let you understand that the name storehouse implies a person, in this case, carrying the capacity and the influence of the Spirit of the Lord as God in the midst of the people. So when we talk about the fulfillment of words in speech and in application, that's the only way we as men can get to know and have the knowledge that is of God on how his things are actually meant to work and operate. But just as usual, we as men have gone ahead to define words, and that has created a huge limitation in our use of words. But today, we'll be trying to clear up that misconception, reaching you from that source which or who has that capacity to explain to each and every one of us how words are meant to function, both in speech and in application. So joining this discussion with me, I have Brother Kufre.
Good morning to you all.
I have Sister Adugo.
Good morning.
I have Brother Savior.
Good morning.
I have Brother Camillus.
Good morning.
And I myself am Brother David. So let's get into what we have. We have said, or we have let our people know that we'll be talking about ignorance and a lack of knowledge. We'll be kicking off from the lack of knowledge, because it's the lack of knowledge that we have as it relates to the ways of the Spirit that we have interpreted, defined, and tried to apply the word ignorance based on that our own knowledge of men. In Hosea chapter 4, verse 6, I would like us to read that so it gives us a solid foundation to kickstart this discussion on a lack of knowledge.
Hosea chapter 4, verse 6.
Yes.
And I read, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God. I will also forget thy children."
It's baffling to read something like this, and you look at how we as men have established ourselves, and you say that there is no knowledge or we lack knowledge. You see the level of innovations going around the world. It doesn't look or it doesn't seem like we as men lack knowledge, because definitely we need knowledge to achieve those things. But remember, we have said in our previous episode that any knowledge outside the knowledge of God can't be considered
As
knowledge.
yes.
So that is where the Spirit is speaking from, that we are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because what we think we have as knowledge is not the knowledge of God. It's not in accordance
Cannot be taught knowledge.
to his ways, his principles, and what have you. It has no bearing with that. So what does it actually mean per se? That's trying to put ourselves in that spotlight. What does it actually mean to lack knowledge?
Remember, you said from the beginning that when we have gone ahead to describe words or interpret words to mean things the way we apply them, it causes the misconception that we have in our world today. For me, I believe that from what I've come to see, I understand that knowledge is not when you go to human school and, and become maybe, how will I put it? Maybe you were studying mechanical engineering or you were reading a law. So you have an idea on the things that pertain to the law, or you have an idea on the things that pertain to the engineering. So you see, when the Spirit is speaking, He doesn't speak attributed to the ways of men. That is what we need to understand. Remember when we talked about land the last time, and we tried to let our people understand that the reason why the ways of God is not our own way and cannot be is the ways of God. And the ways of God, it cannot be man that will bring out the ways of God. It is God that will bring out His ways. So if we have been living the ways of man and God need to come and show us His way, that God must be a person in our midst to show us that way that is His. So when we talk about that knowledge, or we talk about lack of knowledge, it is based on what the Spirit has shown that the people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. So looking at the society today, the aeroplane that we made, the cars that we made, the train that we made, the things that we invent, and we believe that we have knowledge to invent those things, those are the things that destroy us.
Yes.
So can you really call that knowledge? Do you understand?
Yeah.
So knowledge is not just because you know how to do something. Knowledge is also a capacity that comes from that Spirit that gives you something to do and give you the protection of that thing. So that's why no man has that thing. So that the only person who have that is God Himself.
Yeah.
So there is no knowledge with men first. That we need to understand. So when you said from the beginning that words are introduced by the Spirit of the Lord, and the first thing that our people, all of us, need to understand is that the things of the Spirit cannot be understood by carnal men. That is what the scripture have said. So it means somebody that would come from that Spirit have the privilege, have the capacity to instruct men. Now the question is, we the people, are we not coming from the Spirit? Because somebody will ask, are you saying that we are not coming from the Spirit? People have been asking that.
Yeah.
But there is a Spirit that we are talking about here. We are talking about the Spirit of God. So the Spirit of God is the one that is counted as something. But the Spirit of man is not counted as anything. So for somebody not to misunderstand us, need to understand that the Lord, being the Spirit that is overall, the Spirit that is in charge of man and God, produced man first as Himself, but with the limitation. But the perfection of the man, which is the final house, is now in God, which must be a person that will come and instruct us, show us the thing that is original, for us to apply them and get the right solution, not just result, the right solution on why those things were made to be. So when He said that the people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, I do ask, and I ask based on what I've come to understand now. That's why I ask the question I keep asking. When I ask, I say, wait, how will He say that we lack knowledge? With all the certificate that we have, we lack knowledge. Many of us spend 15 years, many 10 years in the so-called school to learn. But remember, learning is not in the things that they teach you, but learning is in the things that the Spirit show you to do and you apply them.
Yeah.
So when you refuse to apply those things, that is where the problem will come from. That is why when we have lack of knowledge first, everybody need to understand first that the knowledge we are talking about here is the knowledge that has to do with life. Not knowledge that has to do with that thing, that the ego that we have in our world. You know, the knowledge of men, what we call knowledge, is what when you have, you think that you are bigger than another person. But the knowledge that God sees is the things that when you receive, it makes you humble to be able to carry that is capacity. So knowledge is of God.
So
knowledge is not of men.
Okay, so what I now get is that's based on what you're saying, which is how it is that the destruction that comes as a result of our lack of knowledge is not because we as men don't know things, but because what we know does not pertain to the way of God.
Yeah.
That's why we are destroyed. You pointed out to our invention of things. You pointed out to the aircraft. You pointed out to a lot of things. You can even use common instances of things that happen around us. We as men, just as Shibaraku first said, we think we know something. So we act on those things we think we know. And when we see the outcome of those things, it's destructive. Because you talk about, for instance, now everybody's talking about climate change and how the petroleum industry has contributed to climate change. And everybody's looking at ways of cutting down the use of petroleum products. But remember, when it started, that's the use of petroleum products, it was the greatest of inventions for mankind.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then down the line, it has become an issue. That shows you the knowledge we lack that is of God.
Yeah.
Because we don't have control over anything. So the things that the Spirit of the Lord let us know and let us apply the way we apply them is just to keep us or to put us in more trouble.
Yeah.
So that our cries are louder when that his person comes. And when he shows us his own way, we can explicitly see the difference that is in it.
Yeah.
Because you can't embrace the light when you have not been in darkness.
Yeah.
So when you dwell in darkness and the light comes, you can see the difference between the light and the darkness. So it's on that note of our lack of knowledge that we'll be looking at this singular word that we have introduced now, which is ignorance.
Yeah. You see, before you go into that, you see, there's a bigger problem in our world, and that is why we need God. Somebody said we need money, but we keep saying here, it's not money that we need, because money is the one that we use to invent all the things that we invent. It's not that it's the money that invent the thing. But you see, because of the corruption of man, we believe that why I use the word money is that the things that the man has an idea to produce by the inspiration of the Spirit, before another person can get access to, you need money to be able to get that same thing that somebody has used the knowledge, the idea of the Spirit to generate or to produce. So you need money to acquire that thing to be able to even go on, because a lot of the invention that people discover today, a lot of them now, like I remember I tried to do a kind of small, how would I call it, homemade generator. That is how to generate a light. Just with the electricity with some lighting points. And when I look at the way to get them, I need to get a plug, I need to get a magnet, there are some things I need to get. These are the things that you can use to get that electricity comes out. But before you get the plug, you need to go and buy it. You see? So those are the things that even the idea that the man has is already monopolized. So that becomes the problem we have in our world. So when we are now talking about the knowledge that is destructive, that is the line. That is the line of that knowledge that we have. And we think that we have knowledge, and it's destructive. So when God is now coming to show us that, listen, this thing you have is not knowledge. Rather, the one I will show you is the knowledge. Because if you know that the things you are doing, when God appear, that may just be the same thing that you will be doing. That same thing you were doing. That may just be. I use the word may just be. You understand? But why were you doing this thing before and this thing was not working? You see, it's because that approval was not there. So knowledge now that comes from God comes with that approval, which is what I said before. So when we now move from that one now, we need to go into the knowledge that God is now talking about, which I would like us to read something before we get to the ignorance. In Romans 10, verse 1 to 2.
I think before we read, I want to just add something to what you just said.
Okay.
About the knowledge. You know, we always talk about something you lack something, I lack this. Well, I used to tell people that what you lack is not something you don't have. Is something is in what you don't know.
Yeah.
That's what you lack. Because you have to understand why you don't have.
Why don't need to
You
have
don't
that?
need to have that thing that you don't have. So that's the knowledge. If you have that knowledge of there's reason why I shouldn't have this thing now, it means that you have everything. But if you put in the way that I don't have this thing, I need to have it, but without knowing why you shouldn't have that thing, that's what you lack. You lack that knowledge, and it comes from God. And it's not something that we human can just generate. It's still God that can give you that knowledge of His to know why you shouldn't have that thing that
You lack.
you lack.
So basically, what you're saying, that's for somebody to get it a little bit more clearer, is that what a man doesn't have is not, or rather, what a man lacks is not what he doesn't have,
Yes.
but what he doesn't know.
Yes.
And you try to give an instance that when you don't have something, that the lack there is not that thing you don't have, but the knowledge
Why?
of why
You shouldn't have that.
shouldn't have that thing, because that thing you don't have might be something
That will
you
destroy you.
shouldn't have, because it has the capacity to destroy you.
Yeah.
But the lack of knowledge, or the lack that what you lack
Is
is
the
not that
knowledge.
thing, but the knowledge of why you shouldn't have that thing. Because if you knew that thing could be destructive to you, you wouldn't desire it.
Yeah.
So it just shows you, or to concur with what you're saying, that what a man lacks is not what he doesn't have, but what he doesn't know. And again, that knowledge can only come from God.
Yeah.
Which
That's
is
where knowledge is.
which is the summary of everything we are talking about.
You can see where the power dwells.
Yes.
You understand? That is where the power dwells, which I pointed before. Because if something's supposed to, knowledge is something that
It's
is
power.
power.
It's power.
We say it. We say that knowledge is power. So knowledge is not because I know something. You understand? It's not because I know something. Because today, if you watch in our, how will I call it, our society today, a lot of people praise about money, how to get money. And when you don't have anything, you need to press it. You need to go to a what we call men of God. And
Chase
they will be
after
praying
it.
for you to have what is called breakthrough. I once asked somebody, I said, you are looking for a breakthrough, and you don't even know whether the God that you think you want to please or you are serving, that God doesn't want to give you money. That thing you want to own, He doesn't want you to own that thing. You don't know. That could just be the state that the Spirit wants you to be at that moment. You understand? Because He knows that if you have this thing, this thing could destroy you. But you don't know, because you can't see Him. But because He has not made Himself available yet to guide you, but that spiritual way make you not to have something, because He has a purpose for you which He doesn't want to destroy, or He doesn't want you to destroy, to get destroyed by. And you are now going to a man, and a man is vibrating, tempting the Spirit. You know, when you see Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. That is what it means. You are not forcing through. You must break through. You must get this before you know. You are now opening the hand of the Spirit by forcing it to do something when it did not want to do it. And at the end of the day, you go and get maybe accident or whatever thing and just get a kind of casualty.
It's
You
like
don't know that because you force the hand of the Spirit. You see?
it's
So-
like it's like I used to use this illustration to always describe this situation. Like a father that has a child, and the child want to you'll be like you always cry that, daddy, I want to drive a car. Give me a car to drive. I want to drive a car. You know, a child of, let's say, 5 years or 6 years. As a father, you won't take because your child is crying and allow your child to drive a car, you know. But the child doesn't know the danger that is ahead of him or her. Even when she eventually end up driving the car. But you as a father, you understand that it is not wise enough to allow your child to drive that car. Will you take because your child is crying and allow him or her to go and drive the car? You see, that's the situation we always have when we all demand for all these things from our Creator. We don't know that all this thing that we are asking about, it will destroy us. And that is where we lack
That is the knowledge that we lack.
that knowledge.
Okay, so but before we read what you wanted us to read, you talked about knowledge being power.
Yeah.
I want to clarify something. That when we talk about knowledge being power, which is a common saying, we are not just saying knowledge being power as knowing something, because you might know based on your encounter with the source of God. You might know that this is something you shouldn't do, or this is something you shouldn't have. You might have the knowledge of how destructive something can be. But the power that comes with knowledge is how you apply it. It's not just in knowing it, which is where this ignorance comes in. Because you can have that knowledge about something and how destructive it can be.
Yeah.
But you are so bent on having that thing because of the pleasure or because of the hold it has on you, and you ignore the knowledge which you have, and you get involved with it. So the power that knowledge has is based on how you apply it.
Yes.
And when you apply it the way it ought to be applied, then you get to see the power that knowledge has.
Knowledge on its own is power. That's why when you apply it well, you get the right result. When you apply it falsely, you get the wrong result. That's what makes it power. And it's not the knowledge. Knowledge is not because you know something. Because man, the first destruction we have is based on what we know.
We know too much.
That is the first thing that destroys man. That thing we know. But when it has to do with God, it's not about what you know again. It's about how you apply what he said to you. And that is what we want everyone out there to understand. You can't get what he said to you by reading the book. Just as we keep using the book now to try to point things to our people. These things that we are telling you, these things were written here, but we did not know. But the advent of the Spirit in this person, the person is now voicing out, showing us this thing. And as we follow it, we can see the change. We can see the strength that those things come with. You see? So it's not about reading, because what you will know will come from what the person of God will say to you. That is why I said before, in one of the moments, you can't know what was hidden from you. Or you can't know what was given to one person to know in order to show everybody. The ways of the Spirit is given to one, so that that person can show everybody. Not because that person is a superstar. Because the Spirit knows that when I come to help my people, at that moment, I don't want to confuse them anymore, because I'm making God available in their midst. So that person is the God who is not an author of confusion.
Yes.
So God will be a person in the midst of a people, showing the people the way they should live. That is what it is. That's why when you read, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, the captivity that we are in today, the trouble that we are seeing in our world today is because that person that have knowledge is not in our midst. And knowledge is perfect. And knowledge can only come from God. So, what I want us to read is for somebody to understand that the ways that we have been following this thing that we call God is not the way that was designed to go. It's not the way that was designed to go to bring out that solution that we are crying for. But first, it was the way that the Spirit allowed us to go in order to get into that confused state. Because the first part of the Spirit is to leave man with confusion, so that he can come back to correct the man.
Okay.
So everything we do today was given to us by the Spirit of the Lord. First, to subject us to that vanity that we have been shown and the vanity that we are living in. Everyone lives under that same vanity. Not because we choose to live under vanity, but because to show the fulfillment of the glory of the latter house being greater than the one of the former is the reason why those programs were there. So anybody watching us should understand that we are not here to condemn what the people think or condemn anybody out there, but we are saying the advent of the Spirit of God in a generation is for us to condemn or to condemn the things that we have been doing. And how do you condemn that? You come to him to show you how to correct it. Remember, how to correct it. It is when you have been shown how to correct it, because you correct something that you did not know. And what you did not know is because you do not have knowledge about it. So the knowledge we lack makes us do things that is not according to the purpose. That is what is called lack of knowledge. But when the knowledge comes, it comes by that person, which he will now show us, which I want us to read this first, for us to understand that we are not here to point a finger at people. We are saying the same problem that humanity are living in is the same problem we have been in until we come across this person, which we keep telling the people, not because we are trying to advertise somebody. No. Whether we like it or not, the reason why we seek for men of God, seek for men to lead us, is because we know that any man with the right spirit of God would be a true leader. And how do you have a true leader if that spirit is not of God? And how will you have a spirit of God in the body of a person perfecting the world, and that person is not a God to you? That is what we need to answer.
God, even if he's not, that person has to be God.
You see, those are the things we need to understand. That when we are talking about God, somebody will say, it is written that if they say God, Christ is here, don't go. If they say Christ is not here, don't go. You know, I'm saying this because it is written. But whatever thing we are reading in this Bible, everybody needs to understand that it's because of that knowledge we think we have that these things were written for us to create more confusion for us. Because the Christ that was talking to the people, if you believe that there was Christ, that Christ was with the people, and he was not talking to you, he was talking to the people. Somewhere. So if he was talking to a people, maybe I was there, he was telling me, listen, Kufre, if they tell you Christ is there, I will be stupid to go to another place where they tell me Christ is there when I have Christ there. Now, as long as I don't have Christ there, and I go to a place where somebody see Christ and tell me Christ is there in Jerusalem, wouldn't I follow him? See, these are the things. But we are saying at this moment that Christ is not just one person that will fall from the sky. No. A spirit that will come into a vessel to begin a work to unite humanity as a whole. So for me not to forget, I want us to read this Romans 10, verse 1 and 2 first.
Romans chapter 10, verse 1 and 2. Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel is that they might be saved. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of God, but not according to knowledge.
Okay. Do you hear that? It said, brethren, my heart desire and prayer to God for Israel is that they might be saved. First, this is Israel that we always talk as a story how God saved them. This is Israel. And the Paul is saying that his prayer to God for Israel is that they might be saved. That is to say, they are not saved yet. Yes. Know that. He went on to say that he bear them record. Let me not use the word us. He bear them record that they have a seal of God. They have a seal, yes, of God, but not according to knowledge. That's what he said. So whatever thing we do, I don't want to go into 3 yet. Verse 3 yet. Whatever thing we do today, whatever, I think we have been saying that here. We have been saying it. Listen, the ways of God must be piloted by one person in a generation. The ways of God. It's not a way that men will get up and start to read Bible or get up and start to go to Bible school and then start to preach. No. So anybody should understand that that is what this podcast stands for. To let our world know how to get the right information from the right source, which is the reason why you said first that everyone need to understand what the storehouse stands for. That the storehouse is not one church, one denomination. Let me not use the word church. One denomination that we call church. But the storehouse is the body of a person by whom the advent of the Spirit in a generation is to be bettered in first. That is where the Spirit chooses to store himself first, to begin a work in humanity. That is who the storehouse is. So every information of the Spirit that you have, you will get it from that person, because that person is the one that opened and no man can shut. And is the one that shut and no man can open. Now, every information that you get from this person, going against it, attracts something different. That is the reason why we have ignorance and lack of knowledge. That's why I said before you go into ignorance, let me bring that in first.
Okay, fine. Why it's like that is because we need to understand that firstly, we lack the knowledge of God.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when we go about doing things based on the knowledge of men, we misapply them. So when we talk about ignorance, we are not just talking about ignorance because we want to look at one word, ignorance. No,
Yeah.
we are talking about the application of that word as it relates to the concept of the Spirit. Because Rakufre mentioned that when you go against the instruction of God, that there are consequences or there are punishments that follow suit when you go against the instruction of God.
Yeah.
Like we say that ignorance is not an excuse before
The law.
The law.
Yeah.
That ignorance is not an excuse before the law. And we have said that saints we are introduced as well by the Spirit of the Lord.
Yeah.
And that same Spirit of the Lord has his intended meaning and application of that saying. But he has let we as men define and describe and try to apply them the way it suits us. When the statement of ignorance is not an excuse before the law, it always happens when somebody is already in a problem or is already in a situation that looks like is problematic, and he says, I did not know. So once he said, I did not know, the follow-up response is ignorance is not an excuse before the law. That's because we have described or defined ignorance to mean a lack of knowledge. But what we are getting to know and see now is that ignorance does not mean a lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
I did not know is actually a lack of knowledge.
Yes.
I did not know is a lack of knowledge. Ignorance is actually knowing something and disregarding that thing you know for whatever reason. That is ignorance. Because you can't describe ignore. This is the human definition. We say to ignore something is to disregard, to dismiss, or to do away with information
To
or
pretend to
anything.
not notice it.
Pretend not to notice. That's to ignore. Then ignorance, which should be the act of ignoring something, has now been described to be a lack of knowledge that I did not know.
It doesn't.
Ignore is to disregard information. Ignorance is the act of disregarding information. And an ignorant person is the person carrying out the act of ignorance. So that makes him an ignorant person. That is what we are coming, or that's what we are getting to know. And it contradicts what we as men have been living by.
Define, yes.
You know, in one of the moments when we talked about school, I remember when you were talking, you said that school, that they said that education is not going to school.
Yes.
That's what they say. And we try to define that to our people, that when we say education is not going to school, education truly is going to school. But we will start from going to school first. That going to school is not going to this human school. Because the scripture never said that you should go to human school or you should be taught by men. Do you understand? So even that statement should show us clearly that we are confused in this world. Because you can see now, ignorance is this from the same school that they taught us. That ignorance means you did not know.
A lack of knowledge.
The why ignore means you notice it, you can't pretend as if you did not notice it. You understand? That's what, you see, that is the reason why he said, all thy children shall be taught of the Lord, and great shall be the peace of thy children. Now, if we are not taught by him, there is another person that will be teaching you. And when that person is teaching you, is bringing that thing that is called destruction. Because what you are getting is not knowledge. Do you see how this is married? What you are getting from the source that is not the teacher, that is not qualified to be called a teacher, is not the knowledge. So you are getting destruction. So while you lack knowledge, you are destroyed. They said that lack of ignorance is lack of knowledge. That's what they said. And they went on to tell us that it's not an excuse before the law. Let's say, first, let's say the law is that place that we are, or that place that we go to, even though that is not the law. Because the language that are spoken by the Spirit. And the Spirit has no business with what men are doing to themselves. The Spirit has business with what men need to do with him. What we as a people need to do with the Spirit, the God, that is what the Spirit has business with.
Okay.
So, but application is what we men are doing to ourselves, which is the reason why we can't get the right solution. So let's say the law is this court we go to. But remember, if the law were to be court, this human court, he will never tell you do not judge anybody. He wouldn't say that.
Yes.
But he said that because the law, the one who judges, is not the man. But we have established that to be where the law is. Okay, let's say that is the law. If you did not know something and you go before the law, maybe you made a mistake because you did not know. What you don't know, what is it supposed to be happening with you in the law court? It means the lawyer that you brought or that came on behalf of, you don't even need a lawyer. It's supposed to be you don't know. So they say, oh, my lord, or the judge, or whatever. This young man did not know. Please, let's leave him. You see? But because justice is not of men. Do you see how these things work? So we suffer the things we suffer because we do not have the one who's supposed to help us. And that is God. So I don't think, for me not to talk too much, I don't think at this moment in this our world, if we sit down here to tell our people, listen, the tears we have been sharing, the weeping, the crisis that we see in our world, the time has come when it should be put to an end by the personality that has the power to do that. I don't think that is an advert to any man. I don't think so. So somebody watching us should understand that you do no wrong thing. If you find out, what is these people talking about? Who is this person that they are talking about? Where is this person that are talking about? How can we see him? How can we hear from him? To see whether what he has to tell us can help the situation. Because right now, no man can help. Oh.
The thing is that what we are talking about, it's very difficult to apply them in the ways of men.
Yeah.
Because when we make statements like ignorance is not an excuse before the law, we have said that statements like that, sayings like that, were introduced as well by the Lord.
Yeah.
And that spirit of the Lord. So there is what it's meant to fulfill. When men, we as men, use it and apply it the way we apply it, it doesn't fulfill
The purpose.
spiritual purpose.
Yeah.
So, and it's that spiritual purpose that we are looking at it from. Because when you say that ignorance is not an excuse before the law, that's because somebody is before the law and he's saying, I did not know.
Yeah.
He has done something I did not know. So, we have now described that ignorance is a lack of knowledge. But we are now getting to see that ignorance is not a lack of knowledge. That ignorance is having knowledge or having information about something and disregarding it to do otherwise.
Yeah.
So how should that kind of character be an excuse before the law?
Yeah.
You see, but with men, when you don't know something, you shouldn't be judged. You shouldn't be
given a punishment.
Be given a punishment when you don't know something. But we are looking at it from the spirit side as well.
Yeah.
Because when you find yourself before the law and you're saying, I did not know, and the law is now letting you know that ignorance is not an excuse before the law, it's not seeing that you did not know as the problem.
Yeah.
Because you can't be before the law if you did not do something to start with.
Yeah.
You have done something and you are now before the law and you are telling the law you did not know. And the law is telling you that ignorance is not an excuse.
Yeah.
Because someone who does not know something will
Doesn't
not
do
do
anything.
anything.
Yeah.
This is the spirit side, right? Because with men, those things you can't apply them.
Yeah.
So we are talking about that statement now as it relates to the spirit. Because, for instance, I don't know something. Like, for instance, I don't know how to get to Lagos. That's an instance. I don't know how to get to Lagos. So what do?
You find out.
I find out who knows how to get to Lagos.
Yeah.
In order for me to get to Lagos. So when I don't know how to get to Lagos and I just get up and decide that I'm going to find my way to Lagos, or I just feel like, oh, I know how to get to Lagos. Or when I hit the road, I'll know how to find my way. And you find yourself in, let's say you find yourself in Kaduna, that's a problem. You see, that's a problem. So you can't be in Kaduna and say, I did not know, because you're already in a deep pot of
Because
soup.
you would have taken that time that you'd say you did not know to ask questions.
Find out.
You see, so that is where the spirit is seeing his own ignorance is not an excuse before the law, because a man cannot just say, I don't know anything. Like, let me give another instance. You are in what we call the school. Everybody is in a classroom, and they are and let's say the lecturer is teaching physics. You don't know about quantum physics. You know you don't know about quantum physics, so you know something. What do you know? You know you don't know quantum physics, so you know something. So what is your duty? To find out how you can acquire information or knowledge about quantum physics. So what I'm saying is that we as men who don't know anything are given the responsibility to look for who knows that thing in order for us to know it. And when we disregard that thing which we don't know and do as we like, we can't come to the law and say we did not know because we have done something. That's where he now says to us that ignorance is not an excuse, because he is saying that ignorance is knowing something and disregarding it. And what you know is that you don't know something. So your duty is to look for that thing you don't know in the hands of the person who knows it, in order for you not to do anything that would end up resulting in a bad
So you can see
situation.
that what we get by not knowing something, according to our imagination, what we get by not knowing something and we went on to do something, is the reason why we get the consequences of the living that we are living.
Yes.
You understand? We know we don't know something. You see how it is? You know, but you don't know something.
Yes.
That is, you know. First you know, and that you don't know something. That means you know something. You see, that's why we have said here that one of the things that the first thing that man got up with is to know. And that has become the problem of everybody. That's why when God is in the midst of the people, what he expects from everybody is that wherever you are, whatever grade that you think you have achieved, he said, now, except ye be converted and become as little children, ye shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. How does it apply? That's where ignorance is not an excuse come from. Originally, the one that served the main purpose is now this. We are talking about the advent of God in our world today, who's supposed to make us to know or to have knowledge about what we need to know to do and what we need to know not to do. Because that is what somebody need to understand, that following God is not talk. It's not how well you know to speak, but how practically will put you into. Because it's a practical living. He said that this marriage we are doing, this thing that we buy and sell, is not supposed to be. We are doing it. You are ignorant. Because you know, even if you were not aware, at least this podcast is bringing to you now that God is in the midst, and this is what is showing us that we must follow. And you can't sit there to follow until you access him for him to instruct you. Since you have been hearing this from us and you are still sitting down there, ignorance is falling on you. Are you seeing that? So this is the time that the real ignorance will be, that doesn't have an excuse,
We'll begin to count.
will begin to count to everybody out there. That's why I said the law is not the human court. There is only one lawgiver. When the Spirit makes himself available in the generation, that everybody need to know. This is not pastoral work. This is not my ministry. This is the program that will process men to be able to carry the presence of the Spirit that subdue everything. This is the program. And this does not belong to anybody. This is not whether I'm a Christian, whether I'm a Muslim, whether I'm Hindu. That's why we said, from everything that has been shown to us, that as long as you have a privilege to be bettered into this world as man, both the male and the female, you are entitled to be in the program of God. So this movement, everybody out there should understand, wherever you are and you are seeking for God, or you want to please God, or you wish to follow God, but you are seeing men that you are following, you want to follow the men to lead you to God, men will never lead you to God. The only person who will lead you to God are the angels who will give you the right information about the birth of God, which you will hear and locate the God. But the thing is that the angels are the people who have come in contact with the God and get prepared to be able to send the information that is about the God Today, everybody is talking about God. Everybody is talking about God. And when we are talking about God, the God you can't see, how can you talk about somebody that you cannot see? Somebody that you have never seen? Because you cannot experience somebody when you have not seen the person and relate with him. So that is why when we talk about who a witness is, we say a witness is not because you read book. A witness is that you are there with the Lamb, seeing what is happening, being a partaker of it, and having a change in you, because you also follow suit by the discipline. So when he said that this buying and selling we are doing, this human school that we go to acquire knowledge that we think is knowledge and we attribute it to God. And Romans 10 verse 3 is saying, for they being ignorant of God's righteousness, they go about establishing their own righteousness, but have not submitted themselves into the righteousness of God. How do you establish the righteousness of God when you have not submitted yourself to God? It doesn't work that way. And you cannot submit yourself to God by one man who thinks that is a pastor. No, you submit yourself to God by the man who is God in the midst of the people.
Yes.
That everybody need to understand.
Yes.
I have a lot to say, but this time doesn't permit. So the word should be enough for the wise. So I'm saying, the way I end it, that everyone out there who wish to please God, who wants to please God, who want to follow God, who feel that they should worship God, should understand that God is in the midst of us. Here in Nigeria. But the God have said, I did not make Nigeria. I make a world. So even though I begin here, does not mean that Nigeria is so special. But rather, what will make Nigeria special if they wake up to embrace his presence. If not, the highest casualty will be seen in this country. And that is what we are trying to avoid. That's why we are trying to pass this information to our people. That the reason why things are not working here is because of the birth of that person, which we must submit and hand over to help us. So somebody should be aware of this thing and understand that this is not a denomination. This is not what to ignore. This is not what somebody is trying to condemn what you are doing. That's why I said in one of the moments, anybody, whether you are a pastor, whether you are a preacher, whatever preacher title that you bear, that you see your video that we use to analyze, please, you need to understand that it's for your good. Because we do everything to make sure this information get to you, for you to make a move on how to be saved. Because without this person, no man can save. Without this personality. So that is enough for somebody to understand that these people are not talking about one man's church or one man denomination. Let me use that word. That's just where I want to end for my own today.
You can actually tie all we have been talking about to our episode on that was what was it? Say the risk of not knowing when God
is in the midst of the people.
Is in our midst. You can actually tie it to that, because when we talk about things like this, ignorance, just as I said earlier, we are not just looking at it as a word, but we are looking at it as it applies. Mm-hmm. As it applies. That's how we are looking at it. Because now we are talking about how you can just find yourself in a situation where you say you don't know and there is no excuse for you.
Oh.
So it shows you the risk that is involved in having God in our midst and not know that he's in our midst.
Yeah.
Because I remember talking with Brother Kufre one time and I said that everybody in the world, each and every one of us, we are all ignorant. And ignorant because when we look at the way things are going on,
happening, yeah.
Look at the way things are happening, it's clear enough for us to see that it's not in our hands
to fix it.
We are not in a position to fix or do anything that can prefer solution. but we keep doing things.
That means we know.
That shows how ignorant we as men are. So we can't say we don't know, because what we know is the fact that it's not in our hands to make things work. We might not know in whose hands it is to make things work, but because it's not in our hands to make things work, and we have come to realize that, no matter how slowly it took, but we have come to realize that our duty is to look for whose hands it's in to make things work.
Yeah.
Which is the responsibility of the Spirit, which is why we keep talking about the storehouse. That the responsibility of the Spirit is to provide a place, a person whom we can locate, whom we can communicate with, in order to know that person, or in order to know what to do and what not to do, in order not to accumulate more casualties, to accumulate more problems. So basically what I'm saying is that the Spirit provides his person in order for us to seek for him and have him do what he has been programmed and destined to do.
And you cannot go to that his person and his person will be talking to you about God somewhere.
No, that person is God. There is no third party involved.
Yeah.
So basically, it's all we have, or all I have to say. I wanted to just briefly read through this, but I don't know if there's any other thing somebody might.
You said earlier, you made one statement that got my attention.
Yeah.
You said that these issues cannot be read in the book.
Yeah.
That it is not reading book or reading Bible. And there is a place that struck me to read, and it's 1 John chapter 2, verses 15. I read, "Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, and the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. And the world passeth away, and the lust thereof. But he that doeth the will of God abideth forever." This is reading. Now I ask, how can you as a man know what is the meaning of the lust of the flesh after reading this? It must take the one whom it is given to reveal to us what the lust of the flesh is. You cannot read this.
What even flesh is before you,
What flesh is
before the lust.
before the lust.
You see?
You can't read it on your own as a man and know and understand.
Even if you even understand it.
Can
You
you
know,
apply
for
it?
somebody to understand this, even if you read it and understand it, remember, one of the, I don't know how to put it, is a dangerous thing, because he said, "For there are many that which shall be known of God has already been manifested in them." That which shall be known of God has already been manifested in them. And when once it happened like that, every of the exhibition, the knowledge that they show is sensual and is devilish. Because that thing that you know, you don't have the power to make it work. Do you see the danger of it? So you went on and be doing something because something, a shadow of things was given to you for destruction. That's why we say knowledge is power. And the power that comes with the knowledge is the knowledge of God. That comes from God to instruct you. He has a power. That power first make you, which is what Brother David said, make you to keep to the things that he said. To be able to put you into the light, or to go against the thing that he said, to be able to put you into eternal damnation. So these things are the things that, but you see, from what you are reading, you can see that we can't get them by reading. the part of the Spirit can only be revealed to man, all men, by the choosing one. The reason why we go to the preacher, those we call pastors, is because we believe or we have a feeling that that spirit is in them. That's why we go there. It's a normal thing. But what makes it abnormal is that the people we go to, they are not the one. That's why we see the crisis we see in our world today. When you have that right person, I can assure you, the wind will come by his voice. And we are saying this because we are seeing how the wind keep coming for those who listen to him and do according to how he said. Obedience is the only source of solution. And you cannot be obedient without the master or a master instructing you on what to do.
Exactly.
You can't get obedience to the things that you know how to read and do. Do you understand?
Yes.
Because when you serve somebody, how do you serve somebody that is not there? Somebody say, I'm serving God. And serving God means I go to clap and sing song in a quiet moment as I want. That is not service. Check what service means. You do service to somebody. So somebody must be there for you to service the person. Do you see?
Yes.
That is what it is. So these are illusions that we live with, and it's not helping us. I am saying that our people should understand that there is a program that the Spirit has. That program is the concept that we keep using the word concept here. What you already pre-planned to be. But we are driving what you already pre-planned as a story event. But we are not seeing the manifestation in our lives. Are we not tired with the way things are happening? Who does the power of God or the Spirit of God manifest in himself and he will still have a limitation? It doesn't work that way. So look at the person we have today. Do you see any limitation? The answer is no. Look at us as we are trying to listen to him. We are seeing small improvement. That improvement is by first keeping to the principle. If you do that and fulfill that obedience, I can assure you our world will be calm. I can't fight with you. You can't fight with me. I can't drag anything with you. You can't drag anything with me. I don't own anything. You don't own anything. You don't own anything. But does it mean that we lack? No. That is the same way that everyone will not own anything, but there are surplus for us to enjoy. But nobody's attached value to it as its own. What a world. Wouldn't you like that? When somebody does not bring gun to shoot you and collect what you owe? Don't you like that to know that the things you owe is supposed to serve another person? What a life. See, that is the life of God. That is the life that God comes with. To first turn the heart of men into the heart of children that knows that they don't know anything. They don't own anything. So things belong to the Father, which is that personality of God. Oh, it doesn't attach, doesn't owe anything as his own. Being the poor that he is. You see, a custodian of everything but doesn't own anything as is. So the people are enjoying. What a life. A world where nobody will beat anybody. A world where nobody will spit on anybody. A world nobody will say to somebody, do you know who I am? That is a world that we are looking for. And it can't come from anybody than the presence of God. That person of God. When you see that happening, I can assure you whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God, you will believe in God by fire, by force. Do you see that? Yeah. So that is the life that we wish for. I wish for myself for that life. I don't know about any other person. But I know that all of us here, we wish for that life. That's why it's not because we are better than those outside, but we are crying for those outside who are even smart in speaking than me. That's why I say it's not in speaking, but you may talk, you don't know how to do. But you see, the Spirit said in the writing, the people honor me with their lips.
For their hearts.
How did he put it? I would like to read the way he put it so that somebody can understand it.
These people draw it near to me with their lips, for their hearts.
I want everybody to know that the thing is in the Bible. Matthew 15.
Matthew 15, verse 7.
verse 7 to, I will read it to verse 9. He said, ye hypocrites, remember that word. And that is put to all of us as men. Men who talk and don't do. Because talking was never a part. We've said it here before when we were talking about giving. Giving is of God. Receiving is of men. Talking is what man does. But to speak is what God speaks. The duty of we men was supposed to be to do. God is the one that speaks, so we do. So any man who get up to say is the one telling people what to do, that person is taking the place of God. That's why as we are here, we are not here telling people what to do. We are telling them to find God. That is not what to do. When you meet God, God will tell you what you need to do that will serve you, the life that you are looking for. It's just an advice of direction that it's our duty. So it's a part of the work of God who has shown us this is how it's supposed to be. That's why I said those who talks about God or who talk to the people of the things of God, they are not men. That we need to know. They are spirit or they are angels. I don't know how somebody will say, how do you become a spirit when you have a body? No, that we will need to go in and out. But let me not deviate from where I'm going to. He said, ye hypocrite, where the desires prophesied of you, saying, these people draweth near unto me with their mouth, and honored me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Remember that. Remember that. If all you do is mouth service to a God that you can't even see, that is why we do the mouth service, because you don't do mouth service to where God is. When you go to where God is, say, keep quiet. That is where God is. But when it's the Lord, what do? We honor with lips. But in vain they do worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. Wait. From Monday to Sunday, we have a programs that we run from Monday to Sunday. The Sunday one is always the bigger program, because that day everybody is not distracted muchly from the things we do. So that day is the day that we go to honor God with the substance of the things we have. So that day nobody play with it. Even the pastor knows that is the day of the hope. You see? So we honor him with our lips, but our heart is very far from him. He said, in vain we do worship him. Because of that thing we do, watch what we do as worship. Watch this thing that we are doing in the world today as the program of God. Church, denomination, check the things we do. Is it out of this thing that we are reading here? He said, but in vain they do worship me, teaching for doctrines the commandments of men. Who say you will never marry? Men's commandment.
When he has stated that the children of this world.
Even if God said, no, don't do that thing. Who say you will be poor? Even when the God said, blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are the poor, not just in spirit. For they shall. But a man who say is coming from God is telling you, say to God, I can never be poor. Means I don't want your blessing.
Which God said that you should leave your father and your mother.
So that is to say, even when God said, come out from among them and be ye separate. They are telling you, who say you will leave your father and mother, your papa, your brother and sister. You see, these are the things.
After he has said, or he has put in writing that if any man will come after me and hate not father, mother, brother, the commandment of man is, who said that you should leave your father and mother?
But you see, we have been saying here that this thing cannot be fulfilled without God being in our midst. Because wherever you will leave father and mother and go to must be where he is.
Yes.
Because even your father, that one who bear father,
there, yes,
will still leave you and go to him. Your mother will still leave you and go to him. You leave your mother and go to him. Every of us will reach there. And that's where you see a family. That's where you see this family we keep talking about. That is not this household that we established. My own wife.
United by purpose, not by blood.
Those are the things. So these are, you see, I said before that I've ended my talk. But to show you that this talk, it doesn't end. That's why we are not here to talk. We are here to let our people to understand that there is the person that we need to come to. Just one key he will give to you. One key. Before he started giving you keys, he will give you one key first. When you know that this is God, he started giving you the keys. The keys are given to him. The keys are given to him. When I use the word given to him, that's why we keep talking to people about God, 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 God. People think that this thing is a fairy tale story. No. God is the person by whom the world need to be with. Now, if you imagine that person now, is it not a person in the midst of a people? In the beginning was the word was with God. And you say the word need to be with a person. When the word is with a person, who is the person? The person that the word need to come to. Because I remember Joshua Selman was shouting that what we do in the word, all of us believe that we have the word. But what the power, the liberation power that the word is supposed to have, is not seen in us. Now, when you have the word in you, or the word abided in you, or the word being in you, who are you?
You are the
So
word.
I don't want to go far. I've been talking, I haven't closed my day, but you see now I started again. That shows you that this thing doesn't end. That's why I said it's not talking. It's for us out there to just know that this movement that is beginning is pointing to the fact that there is a presence with us that we need to access so that our dying world can recover back.
Well, the talk is not wasted. So it's not as if your proclamation of ending the talk and continuing it is a problem, because all you have just done is still highlight the fact that we lack knowledge based on those few things we pointed out. Leave father and leave mother, but what do? We hold on to them, and anybody who tries to abide by that is cast aside and looked at as somebody who has gone crazy.
Yeah.
Buying and selling, all those things shows the knowledge that we lack. So that little turnaround from your ending of the talk is still helpful for anybody who pays attention to listen to what we are saying. Yeah. Because as Sister Iti will say, we are the ones saying it, but we are not the ones that are generating it, or we are not the ones that decided that that's how the thing is going to be.
Yeah.
We are just people as you who have heard it and are trying to apply it and are seeing how the things work. Okay. So we are saying to any other person who is listening to us that this is the only way this thing can work, because we have lived the way you have lived, and we are living this other way, and we can tell the difference.
Yes.
So what you should do is to get up from wherever you are and try this new water, because you can't stand here and test or know how this one works when you don't enter to try it. Yes. Yeah. So basically what we are saying is make your move and find out for yourself if what we are saying is the way it is. Yeah. So on that note, I think we have come to the end of today's episode. Okay. And as usual, if you have inquiries, you can send us an email via the addresses on your screen, and I'll be sure to get back to you. So we say bye for now till we come your way next time.